Item 23, ordinance number 2023-08-21-03 of the City of Lakeway, Texas, amending Title II, Building and Development Regulations, Chapter 26, Signs, Article 26.04, Authorized and Prohibited Signs, 26.04.003, Authorized temporary signs in a residential district, and providing for penalty, severability, repealer, and an effective date. Again, we have a very brief staff report from Building and Development Services Director Carr.
I'll try to make this one briefer. So currently, we have in the ordinance that real estate signs for residential districts may be a brochure box. And we have come into a discussion that we need to broaden that and allow for sale signs that are more the traditional, kind that you stick into the ground. And those are 18 by 24 inches. So I have reworked the ordinance and gotten the blessing from our city attorney that this was adequate. I did keep the brochure box in there in case somebody wants the brochure box instead of a for sale sign, so it could be an either or. And this is a picture of what it would look like. It's just the normal 18 by 24 for sale sign. And that's it. That's all I have.
Questions, Councilmember O'Brien?
Don't have any right now, but I'm thinking.
Okay, Councilmember Szymanski.
So the question I have is the height, the measurements on these. Mm-hmm. Just from looking around and asking around on this one, one of the common signs, both for the brochure and for the for sale sign in some of our surrounding neighborhoods and communities, are using the post. And so the post is taller. Mm-hmm. The dimensions are going to be different than what we've approved here. So the posts are going to be prohibited currently under this ordinance. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep, but that's for y'all to decide. If you want something that's more, that's just going to, I think those can be up to 8 feet tall, and they can be up to, the arm can hold up to a 36 square foot sign.
Yeah, they have smaller ones though.
Right, okay, so that's the thing though, is you're going to need to decide if you want a smaller one, because the ones I saw when I was looking at kind of the general, it was like, they get kind of big.
Yeah.
But that's up to y'all.
Upgrade your kitchen. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
They look a lot better though. But yeah.
Questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, if you go with something like this, we'll need to change some of the language because the height isn't really 2 feet by 18 inches. The sign is that. The height would be whatever you think those signs, how tall the post can be.
Mm-hmm. So if I have one of the signs you showed before, a sign, not the box, a lot of the ones that I just haven't looked in a long time, but don't a lot of people put brochure funnels or tubes on there? Would they be able to do that, to pick out brochures? Would they be able to put that on their sign?
I would be fine with that.
That's all I need is to know how you would.
Because if you put the box on the sign, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be prohibited.
It wouldn't be prohibited.
Okay.
And a lot of people are putting like QR codes.
Yeah, that's been real popular. Even with the brochure boxes, they don't even put brochures in there. They just put the QR code. So you just go along, you hit the QR code.
That is smarter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Vance, questions?
Yes. Probably a question for Kaveh. Would we be better off writing this as content neutral, just speaking of signs in this size, no matter what the content is, and then possibly a caveat for a brochure box as well?
It doesn't make any difference legally. We are considering in our ordinance real estate signs to be commercial signs, which we can regulate. It's not a free speech type sign of stating your political opinions or whatever. Those are the ones we need to remain content neutral on.
I just wondered if it would just make it easier just to say signs can't exceed the size in your yard and not even levy an opinion on whether it's real estate or not.
Well, we have those rules for non-commercial signs. We do have size limits on those. I think it's what, 4 by
3 by 4.
3 by 4.
3 by 4, yeah.
Yeah. Which is something that's set out in state.
I mean, I have no issue with the way that it's written. I was just wondering if we even had to be content
because we're
specific.
changing something that's been in the ordinance for a long time, that you don't allow these signs, I think it's perfectly fine to change the ordinance to say we're allowing them. Now, we may do more of a sign code rewrite in the near future, and we may, at that point, make it more content neutral in terms of commercial signs in residential lots. But
Gotcha.
you know,
Right, that was actually
that's a conversation we need to have.
Yeah, that was the intent, was to just fix the for sale sign commercial speech aspect of the code, and then go back and look holistically at the entire sign code.
Okay.
And determine whether or not we want to just go full content neutral, or assume that commercial speech is still less protected than non-commercial speech. But we want to have that discussion at a later point in time. The goal was to just focus on the real estate signs at this point.
Understood. Thank you.
Councilmember Britton's any questions?
I do have a quick question, just to give me an idea of sizing. Is this the typical size of a political sign, 18 by 24?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Depends on the candidate, but yes. Some people go with much smaller ones. You get a lot more.
True.
I'm good.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have no questions. Thank you. Citizens' participation. Is there anyone present in
I
chambers?
do have a question.
Oh, you have another question?
Yes. So, under C, 1C, maximum height brochure box 4 feet, or real estate sign 2 feet. So is that 2 feet to the top of the sign? So that means the bottom of the sign is going to be this far off the ground?
Well, that's why I was saying I think we need to tweak that language a little bit anyway, because even the 24 by 18 signs are on some kind of post of some kind. So, and that's where, again, if you guys want to allow the big, real estate arm signs, we would adjust it to allow for that. But we could also say that they can't be more than 4 feet tall or something. I don't know how tall of a sign post somebody wants to put the sign on.
Are they 3
Whatever
feet?
it is, that's what they'll do.
They do sell different sizes of those
Yeah.
in the world.
Are there any other questions, council members? If there are no questions, we'll open it up for citizens' participation. No one signed up in advance. Yes, if you'd like to address council on this topic.
Annette Brown, 111 Outcrop View Lane. I had no intention of ever being up here at all tonight. Why, and I don't know what y'all have already studied or what you've even talked about. Why are we even changing it? Are the realtors asking for it? Is it a freedom of speech? What is it? Lakeway has always had these little small boxes. It's just what we do. Everybody's used to it. What is the reason we're changing it?
As state and federal laws change, we have to adapt our policies
So
accordingly.
the state and okay, then I don't know what that state and federal law has changed.
Well, there is ongoing litigation where we've been asked by a county judge to reassess our sign ordinance. Federal judge. And we as a council, told the judge that we would address it. We did not say we would change it. So
Okay.
we are meeting our legal court requirement to have a conversation about this
Okay.
matter.
But it has also always been something that the real estate agent community doesn't like.
Actually, that's okay. Well, when I get my discussion point, I'm going to say exactly the opposite.
Okay.
Well,
when we amended the ordinance in 2018-19, there was a lot of
Correct.
angst about we weren't doing this.
Right. I
Maybe
understand.
they've changed their mind in the last 4 years. I don't know.
well, for 2 years, they didn't even have to have a sign out. The houses were selling without whatever. Sorry. Okay. Thank you for letting me know that, because I didn't keep up with it. And I just, one by one, the garage thing, this, one by one, it's chipping away at what Lakeway used to be. I know we've grown, I know we've doubled, I know we have $4 million houses and we didn't have them before. I know all that. But one little thing, it's changing Lakeway. And those of us who've been here almost 20 years, it's tough.
Well, for this one, we were required, due to a Supreme Court case earlier in the decade, to allow non-commercial speech signs in yards. That's why people now have political signs in their yard.
They've always had political signs in their yards.
It was not legal under the city's ordinance prior to 2018.
Well, it's been going on ever since I've been here.
But it was not legal under the ordinance.
It was, you were limited to a maximum of 3 during a certain time period. Those are all against
all of that
Supreme
had
Court.
to change, and so we changed that to comply with the Supreme Court decision. What the federal court has said more recently to us specifically is,
to Texas or to Lakeway?
Lakeway.
To Lakeway.
How do you justify not allowing for sale signs when people can have 75 political signs in their yard? And that's a hard question to answer, and we said, well, we'll go back and talk to the client about it. And that's what we're doing.
But they can't have 75 signs in the yard.
Yes, you can.
Sure.
The Supreme Court says you can.
You can put up a sign for every candidate
All
you're
right,
supporting on the
I
ballot.
understand. I just wanted to, I understand where you.
We feel your frustration.
Yeah.
But that was a change from the U.S. Supreme Court, and now it's impacting us directly because we have this one holdout that's unique to us.
And other cities are having to deal with this.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that the Supreme Court is looking right here at Lakeway, Texas. That's good news.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else present in chambers who wish to address council on this matter? I see none. Will end citizens' participation. And I'll start the discussion. Actually, in 2018, I was one of the advocates for changing the sign ordinance because our city sign ordinance was blatantly unconstitutional, and we managed to get it signed and fixed. This one item is the one item on tonight's agenda where I have had an incredible amount of feedback. First off, I think there's no problem with distinguishing between political signs in yards and commercial signs in yards. A real estate for sale sign or for sale sign by owner is commercial speech. The city of Lakeway is entitled to regulate commercial speech in residential areas under our municipal law code under the Texas Constitution. So that's said and done. Second, I am completely opposed to making any changes whatsoever to this ordinance. The ordinance as written in 2018 stands, and it stands well. I have spoken with multiple realtors. Realtors have called me. Realtors have called my wife to relay messages to make sure that I got the message. And the answer is that real estate signs do not market homes. Real estate signs market real estate agents to let you know that they are very pretty and very popular and you should sign up with them. And actually, every real estate agent who contacted me said they liked the existing system because they already have it working for them in the MLS, that everyone is used to the brochure boxes, everyone is used to the QR codes, and that adding signs was unnecessary and would change the character of Lakeway. I think it would add an incredible amount of visual blight for those people who criticize those of us on the dais and those of us who ran and didn't win for putting up our political signs everywhere and say it's visual blight. I assure you, you're going to hear the same comments that real estate signs littering the street are nothing but visual blight as well. They are unnecessary. The system as it is currently envisioned works. It works strongly. I don't think we need to make this change for the benefit of the federal judge. I don't think we need to make this change for the benefit of any litigants against the city. I am perfectly willing to continue to defend our city with this structure. I think it maintains Lakeway's character. Real estate signs are not necessarily, when the single largest real estate agent in the city of Lakeway says, Tom, we do not need that change. It was not beneficial. It doesn't help. It doesn't help us or our practice in any way. What it would be really nice is to make sure we just had clarity on our open house signs. And if you could address that part, that would be better because the real estate community would use that. But we don't need this. So that's my discussion to lead. Who would like to go next? Councilmember Forden?
Wow. I'm just going to listen on this one. I'll let Kelly go Council.
Yeah, my biggest concern too is running in a couple of elections, these signs, depending on how much they put into the post, these are going to be everywhere. One windstorm and they're going to be all over the place. So I'm kind of with you on this one, Tom. Mayor, Tom.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Vance.
I actually feel the same way. I'm happy to keep it the way that it is. I know there's other communities, Horseshoe Bay does it the same way, Woodlands does it the same way, and maybe they haven't gotten the pushback that we're getting, but I don't necessarily think that needs to stand in our way.
Okay.
I did want to say one thing to it.
Yes.
And that the biggest threat to the character of Lakeway is the Texas legislature. So I would suggest you get involved on the state level.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a question, but I don't know if I should ask it right now. Look at me, Cobby, and start doing this if I'm going the wrong way.
Did you want to excuse
The fact
yourself?
that you actually had to ask that question means you should probably.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're protecting the city of Lakeway if we go this route. Is the city of Lakeway protected? Is our sign ordinance legal if we...
As I stated, the federal judge asked a difficult question for the attorneys to answer, which is, given that people can put as many non-commercial signs in their yard, how do you justify not letting them put a for sale sign, which is exactly the same size? And the only argument we can say is, well, it's commercial speech. But the rules on commercial speech from the Supreme Court are not that we can just regulate it any way we want. We can regulate it more than non-commercial speech. But it still has to be reasonable. It still has to allow the message to get out. And so that's the conversation. If we can have a lot more conversation on the back if you want.
Right, and
pull us back there.
And we do allow commercial speech of real estate in residential areas via the brochure box.
Correct. But that was explained fully to the federal judge, and he looked at us and said, how do you justify not letting someone have a 2-foot by 1.5-foot for sale sign? What is the magic about the 18 by 11-inch box versus that sign, given that they can put any other sign in their yard that they want?
Because the genie lives in the box.
That's...
Yeah.
Well, it's
okay.
Anyway, then I'm going to...
Any more than that, I would rather go in the back.
Okay.
So I feel like my first job is to protect the city. I agree with protecting the city's character. If you look, there are... I was just looking at Realtor.com the other day to see what was for sale. I don't think the streets would be littered with these. As much as I like the character, I feel like my first responsibility is to keep the city compliant so that it doesn't get sued and we wind up losing more money for a lawsuit like this, which would probably get a pile on right afterward. So I don't... As much as I like to keep the character of the city, I would rather allow the sign and the way it's described there. That's my opinion.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yeah, I'm all for, not negotiating with the bogus lawsuit and keeping it the same. However, if we are going to change it, I definitely think that we should allow the posts, because there's a lot of realtors, again, that work here, and they use the posts, which look a lot nicer in Sweetwater, West Cypress Hills. So if we're going to allow it, why don't we allow them to do that and not put the metal tacky signs out if they have those and they're available? I don't think we should prohibit those and allow the less appealing metal sign.
The ones that bend in the wind?
Yeah. But I also understand Cobby's point. I had no idea about this in 2018 or whenever it was that we sold our house in Old Lakeway. I had no clue this was an ordinance. I think it's kind of, I don't think it's a huge deal, but it would be my pleasure to not entertain a change for the lawsuit that was brought. I'm just not a fan of, making a big change unless we really think that this is going to put us in a bind, and I just don't see it.
It would be better to not have this conversation about we're doing this for the lawsuit, or I don't care about the lawsuit, or I don't care what the federal judge
Well, that's
thinks.
fine. It's already
We shouldn't
been
be
said,
saying
so
those things
that's okay.
in public as we've been doing.
Well, it was already brought up, so I was just doubling down on it.
Just be aware, this is recorded. It can be played back in court, and every one of you will be questioned on the witness stand about your statements.
Well, wouldn't be the first time.
So I'm aware for you, but not for everyone else.
Okay. Councilmember O'Brien, discussion?
I'm not sure I should say anything.
That's why I didn't say anything.
Yeah, right. I certainly agree that, one of the things that drew us to Lakeway was it's very unique. And I think the small real estate signs are one of the things that makes Lakeway unique. But at the same time, I can drive past one house that has one of these in their yard, and I'll hit the next one that has remodel sign in front of it because they just did a remodel or a re-roofing or whatever. And then I'm thinking to myself, if I read this and I hear the arguments, what's the difference?
That second sign's also illegal, and we pull them out.
Well, they're there. So whether they should be pulled out or they're not pulled out is neither here nor there because they are there. And so I'm kind of I really don't have a dog in the hunt. I'd like to keep Lakeway, but I do recognize that kind of the industry standard of in real estate is something like what we're seeing. Now, I do like Council Member Szymanski's thought about if we do want to change this, that we would require a bit higher quality level of signing that is put in as opposed to the metal brackets.
I was going to say, I think the problem, I definitely prefer the aesthetic, but I think that we're creating the exact same problem that we're trying to run from, which is we are regulating content. We're regulating that sign because of its content, not because it's a sign.
Can I suggest that we go to closed session? I'm really uncomfortable with the conversation that's going on right now.
Yes, the time is 11:49. No, excuse me, the time is 11:51. In the advice of counsel, we will adjourn into an executive session. No action will be taken in executive session. Action, if any, will be taken in open session when we return. Again, the time is 11:51, and the council is breaking for executive session. Maximum height, C. Maximum height, real estate sign, 2 feet.
Oh, so that should say 3.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. The time is 12:05 p.m. We have returned from executive session, seeking advice from our counsel, as permitted under the 551.071. Thank you. No action was taken in executive session. Action, if any, will be taken back in regular session. We are still having a conversation about item 23, which is an amendment of the city's sign ordinance. Ordinance number 2023-08-21-03. So the meeting is, the council is present on the dais. There is a quorum. The meeting is called to order. Okay.
I will make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2023-08-2103 with the amendment to B1C that the real estate sign is changed from 2 feet to 3.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the proposed change to the ordinance, the adoption of the ordinance as changed, please raise your hand and say aye. Okay. That's 6 ayes. All those opposed say nay. Nay. The motion carries 6-1.